Hey guys, welcome to Vaibhav Munjal podcast. My today's conversation is with Reema Kagti, who is one of the most influential filmmakers of our country. She most recently made Superboys of Malegaon, which is now streaming exclusively on Prime Video. So let's jump right inside the conversation I had with Reema Kagti on Vaibhav Munjal podcast. Hi Reema, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming down to talk to me.
Congratulations on Superboys of Malegaon.
Thank you.
आपको ना मैंने गेटी सिनेमा में देखी थी जाके, तो मेरे लिए तो it was such a nostalgic experience because that is like such an like that theater in itself.
It's iconic.
Yeah, it's iconic. मैं वहाँ बैठ के देख रहा हूँ a film which is also about movies. And it's such a beautiful underdog story. How has been the response yet, और आपको कैसा लग रहा है like about like the way people are talking about it?
It's getting a lot of love, so that's heartening. I wish the box office performance was better.
Okay.
But at least it's getting love.
Does it like affect you as a creator when not enough people go to like let's say the theaters and जो overall हमारे market में एक चीज चल रही theaters में लोग इतना जाते नहीं है.
I think for any filmmaker, अगर आपके reviews इतने अच्छे हो, word of mouth pretty strong है, and that doesn't translate into bums on seats, so obviously it's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the people who've watched the film have given it a very, very strong
absolutely
response. So, that kind of balances out.
Yeah. And मेरे को वही लगता है कि there are films जो अगर theater में limited लोगों ने देखी है, there is a very good chance people will see it on OTT. For how many days were you shooting the film? Shoot time कितना था?
I can't remember exactly, but around 74 days, something like that.
Okay. And like you got like such great actors, Adarsh, Vineet, Shashank together. I think you are in general very good at like getting all the best actors. मैंने honeymoon में भी notice किया था, तलाश में भी, दहाड़ में भी. Like, tell me about like the casting bit of it, where you get the best actors together.
I think that comes very strongly from our casting directors, Nandini Shrik and Karan Mali. We work with them very often. They do most of our projects. And, it's really credit to them. Because I honestly believe 80% of a good performance is right casting. So, thanks to them. And, we had worked with all three of them earlier. Adarsh was in Kho Gaye Hum Kahan. Vineeta worked with On Gold. Shashank has been in Made in Heaven. So we were completely aware of their caliber.
Where did that line come from?
Interestingly, we were doing rehearsals and Vineet came up with the line on set. And the minute he said it, I said we must keep that line. But again, due credit to Varun also, because I feel like, any scene is very collaborative. If Varun hadn't written the scene and the lines leading up to that line, Vineet, I don't think would have got the cue. So I would give Vineet and Varun credit for it. But it was a line that came up while we were improvising on set.
मैंने जितना directors को study किया है, mostly seen there are two kind of directors. One like the Greta Gerwig school of thought, which is very heavy on rehearsals. Like even if you have to improvise, we want you to improvise in rehearsals, not on sets because time constraint hota hai. But then there is like a Christopher Nolan school of thought. They are like कि हम rehearsal सिर्फ logistics के लिए करते हैं, बाकी everything needs to be done on set. So which school of thought do you like more?
I think that I sit somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Because we did do, before we even got onto set, there was a workshop by Atul Mongia. Initially it started with nothing to do with the script, just getting all, the entire ensemble cast together, getting them comfortable with each other, kind of opening up to each other, creating a bond. Uske baad, we did specific scenes. And I did readings with all the actors. And readings mein bhi kabhi aa jate hain, because even when you're kind of sitting in an office and rehearsing, lines do come up. If there's anything very good, I do make a note of it and then bring it up on set again. Once I'm on set, I always do a bunch of rehearsals because I believe that, that is the day and every day comes with something new. So, thoda dono jagah pe I do it.
Nice. And since you have also AD'd in past, so wasn't this film all the more metaphorical for you because you knew about every aspect of filmmaking? Then there was a documentary on this subject also. So when you were there, आप तो हर चीज से बहुत ही ज़्यादा relate कर पा रहे होगे. Okay, I've seen this world, I've seen this world.
Yeah, I think that was from the writing phase.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so many. The interesting thing was the parallels. कि एक मुंबई फिल्म इंडस्ट्री है एंड मालेगांव फिल्म इंडस्ट्री, बट parallels बहुत होते हैं. You know, like Nasir has certain qualities that I see in most directors around me. You know, you are a hustler, जुगारू होते हैं. You tend to become very, you know, you're only thinking about your film. You know, things like that.
Yeah.
So and not just the you know, like actors. We tried to kind of cue how fragile actors are in that sense on set. You know, like when Raju the chaiwala keeps messing up his lines, they're trying to build his confidence.
Yeah.
But baju wala banda thoda aur main, you know what I'm saying? So those kind of things. But generally, I think there's a huge parallel between the film world that we created in Malegaon and Bombay. Because if you see the fight between Farooq and Nasir, I think the fight is about doing something original versus a successful remake.
Yes.
You know, which is something that's plaguing us also right now.
Yeah.
So there were many things, you know, which one I could relate to in that way.
Yeah, and I loved ki hair and makeup room was an auto. That was such a nice touch. Like what? Like tell me the story behind that.
That was written by Varun, and it was just kind of, we were trying to cue this actress who comes in.
Yeah.
And you know, though she might be a small town actress, or you know, she's mostly dancing in weddings and stuff, but uska bhi hai jo the kind of nakhras that people, stars have, you know. So that's what we tried to kind of put out.
How important is subtext for you in a film?
Very important.
Okay.
Because I think that in all the work that we do at Tiger Baby, there is subtext.
How important is it for you that the audience understands the subtext?
It's very important, yaar. आप कुछ करते हो तो you're hoping people understand and like it and appreciate it for the right reasons. Say, for example, Dahaad is a, you know, yes, it is a, you know, it is about a serial killer, and a serial killer who's out there in public domain, very famous serial killer. But to me, that was not the story. The story was how a society and things in society like casteism, patriarchy, all of these things kind of nurture violence against women, you know. So, and people got it. So that was good, because if people watched Dahaad and came out and said it's only a serial killer show, I would be very disappointed.
आपकी नासिर की favorite film कौन सी थी?
You know, I think it is Superman of Malegaon.
Yeah. And tell me more about like the toughest days of direction on set. Yeah, these were the days where we were like, okay, tell me more about the making.
You know, filmmaking is like that. Every day is Murphy's Law. So whatever can go wrong does go wrong. You have to deal. So I think every day is kind of challenging. But one particular day we were shooting, you know, the scene where Nasir and Akram are shooting a wedding, and this girl comes and starts dancing, and that's where he gets the idea to cast her. पता नहीं कुछ you know, security को बाहर वाले आ रहे थे, you know, कुछ हो गया झगड़ा बाहर. So we actually got attacked by 30-40 people who were throwing things on the crew and stuff like that, and literally we shot that scene under siege, you know. Yeah.
What were they throwing?
पहले तो onions and potatoes फेंक रहे थे. Then it did get a bit scary, because what security guys kind of, you know, we were in a vegetable market, and the security guys kind of shut the gates. So people came with bikes and they were like banging into the gate. So while the take is going on, I was very aware कि 10 feet away from me कोई motorcycle लेके gate तोड़ने की कोशिश कर रही है. We kind of tried to quickly get most people who we absolutely didn't need offset. We got to the last shot, and by that time, I think that the crew, the actors were very shaken up. But I kind of held my ground and I said, मैं एक take लेके तो जा नहीं सकती. We'll do another one. I really appreciate the cooperation of the crew that stood there and were with me, and we got that second take, and then we got everybody out safely. Because of this incident, we decided it was not very safe for the crew. So they were, this was towards the end of the schedule, and we had about, I think 10-12 days of shoot left, and we decided to move to Bombay and do it. Now, Bombay में 90s का small town create करने के लिए, it was a challenge. Like I remember we were shooting near somewhere off Muhammad Ali Road, on this street, where literally we were getting like एक rehearsal करके we had to open the road. And then cars would be like, people are passing through our set. And then we would do like a take and then stop and then do another take and stop. But creating a small town in Bombay was very challenging.
आपको personally ज़्यादा क्या पसंद है, directing or the writing?
मेरे लिए one is an extension of the other. Obviously, Superboys is the first thing that I've directed that I've not written myself.
And how does that feel?
Zoe and I were very involved from the beginning with the writing. So when Varun finished his research, we sat together and kind of spoke about the themes of the film and what we were trying to do with it. So I was pretty close to the writing. I think that made it easier. And obviously, before I went onto the floors, I did like a director's draft to make it my own. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be if I had to direct somebody else's writing.
But in the start, was it scary?
It's always scary. Whether it's your material written by you or somebody else, it's always
और
scary.
ये जो आप मेरे को डायरेक्शन ड्राफ्ट बता रहे हैं, मुझे इसके बारे में थोड़ा और बताइए. Like कि वो is it just a PDF you have for yourself, or is it for others also?
No, it's for everybody. But basically, I took Varun's draft and changed a few things, tweaked a few things, edited it. I wasn't very happy with the end that we had, so I kind of rewrote the end of the film, that kind of stuff. But again, obviously, it's back and forth with Varun, and only when he was comfortable with the changes I'm making that I made them.
Yeah. Who are your favorite filmmakers?
I think as a child, I was very influenced by Salim Javed. Mr. Bachchan was one of my favorite actors. He still is. There's Spielberg, there's Coppola, there's Scorsese, Wong Kar-wai, Almodovar. The guy who made Parasite.
Bong Joon-ho.
Earlier he had made one of my most favorite films, which is Memories of a Murder.
Wow.
So, there's Gus Van Sant, there's Harmony Korine. तो बहुत है. I mean, it's very difficult to pinpoint one.
जैसे Superboys of Malegaon में हम एक थिएटर देखते हैं जहाँ पे फिल्म्स बनाई जा रही हैं. Do you have a memory of watching the film for the first time in your life in a theater?
I don't know which was the first film I watched. I don't remember that. But I grew up in a small town called Digboy, and we had two theaters.
Okay.
They were called Janta and Jasoda. And the gentleman who owned those theaters was a friend of my dad's, and his kids were our friends. So whenever we used to go and play in their house and stuff, when we had like play dates, we used to slip into the theater and watch stuff. So my earliest memories of watching films were in those two theaters.
There's a question I asked to all the directors I do an episode with. One thing you learned as a director, like a very special advice you can give. Like I'll give you examples. Like I did an episode with Baman sir. I'm like कि एक ऐसी चीज़ डायरेक्शन के बारे में जो आप ही दे सकते हैं एक एडवाइस. सो उन्होंने कहा कि हाउ यू शुड ऑलवेज लिसन टू द क्रू. आई डिड अनदर एपिसोड विद रणदीप हुडा. इज लाइक यू शुड नेवर लिसन टू द क्रू. जोया का मैंने एक राजीव मसन के साथ एपिसोड देखा था. शी इज लाइक गिव गुड फूड टू द क्रू, इट सॉर्ट्स एवरीथिंग. वरुण ग्रोवर के साथ व्हेन आई टॉक्ड ही सेड जस्ट वेयर कंफर्टेबल क्लोथ्स एज अ डायरेक्टर, इट सॉर्ट्स एवरीथिंग. सो दैट वन यूनिक पीस ऑफ एडवाइस for the upcoming directors that you can give?
I think it's to, what we were talking about earlier, improvise stuff. I think that when you become too set and structured about what is on paper and you don't allow for a little room for improvising, you might end up losing beautiful things that you could have got. So I would say allow room for improvising.
So if an actor asks for a take that they want for themselves, because I've heard there are takes for cinematographers also, like on shows कि ये एक हमें हमारे हिसाब से.
No, definitely, because see I do that for everybody.
Oh wow.
Because you have to. कभी you love the performance and पीछे से makeup आके बोले अरे there was sweat on her forehead. Do you know, on an actor's forehead? You have to, I think, give everybody that chance. So I actually retake for actors. I retake if my DP wants it, if any crew wants it. Kabhi wardrobe, kisi ka dupatta kahin gir gaya. You have to do that. Or even sound. You know, because sometimes the sound take is, because I'm hearing in the cans that पीछे कहीं sound आ रहा है, and I know that it's difficult for the guy to clean this up. Key dialogues पे आ गया. Then you have to do a retake.
तो इसमें जैसे dubbing नहीं हुई थी, was it sync song?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And like, do you prefer it that way?
Yeah, I always prefer to shoot sync sound. Even if I'm building sets, I like to build them in live locations, because this entire video parlor and the brick wall opposite was all stuff that we built. None of it was there. We just took a live street and kind of built a set there. Wow. So those are the kinds of things I like to do, because it adds a lot of authenticity, you know. The reason why I prefer sync sound to dub sound is because, you know, you can always get the pitch of the dialogue or the performance, and maybe you can, but you lose breath. And that to me is very, very important, because that is very realistic and authentic.
Yeah. One thing I really liked about your film was the ending. And recently I did an episode with Abhishek Upmani, who is a very, like, one of the biggest comedians of India. And he is also like, कि मैं जब गया था प्रीमियर में, मेरे को रोना आ गया, मैं चाहता नहीं था लोग मेरे को रोते हुए देखे, तो मैं ऐसे गुस्से में बैठा था, इतने सारे लोग हैं मेरे साइड में. And that is something I also felt like. It was very cinema paradise, so kind of a thing where you are seeing people watch film and that is making you cry. So let's talk a little about the ending of it. And guys, ये थोड़ा spoiler है, so yeah.
Well, I mean, the end, like I said, was a mashup between what Varun had written and what I wrote. We kind of, you know, because of the documentary already existed. And all three of us, Zoya, Varun and I, we loved the documentary. So from the word go, we were very aware that there's no point trying to just recreate what is there. It was really, you know, for us, it was about getting a deep dive into this town, into this man and his group of friends. And from the beginning, we were very, very clear that we wanted the film to end on this note of Nasir and all the other friends on a level trying to immortalize Shafiq, you know. So that's why I guess, and that's the emotion I think that hits people.
Yeah, it lands very well.
Yeah. If you see the documentary, it didn't happen that way. But we took that liberty because we wanted to show, in retrospect, what Nasir wanted to happen. You know, I'll explain to you, like, you know, when we were in Toronto at the first screening and Nasir was with us. Ooh. I think for him, it was overwhelming. You know, when that big, massive audience got up, gave us a standing ovation, he started crying. And I asked him, I said, are you okay? He said, no, I'm so happy. But the thing that's really hitting me is, आज शफीक और फारूक नहीं है हमारे साथ, but they were there still for the audience and all of us. You know, we got a very strong sense of who they were. So you know, it was like you're saying meta, na? This film has many, like, you know, wheels within wheels, and yeah.
There's another aspect of it which I didn't understand. Like, if I may, it's like. Sure. I want to ask you, and that is something I also asked Varun and like Adarsh. It is about the music. In the start, like, there is a scene where Nasir, I think he likes someone and he sees that person getting married, right? And there some music comes in, and that was just one scene where I felt the music goes there, and I wasn't feeling that because not enough scenes were there for me to feel that thing, because I felt the emotions weren't earned for me to feel something for Nasir then. Okay. So that is just one bit I thought in regard to the music, because sometimes the music just elevated to a level where I'm like, hey, but this is not earned. Correct me if I'm like, this was something.
I mean, see, film is very personal. So if you felt that, it must be true for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, me and the music directors didn't feel that. That's why we cued it.
Yeah. Which are the other aspects of the film Superboys of Malegaon that not enough people might know of, but you would like, hey, by the way, you should also know about this film?
ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. Everything that we want is in the 2 hours. आप जाके देखिए and you'll see what we meant to put out.
And anything I do, I take recommendations from people. So can I like take a few recommendations of things from you?
Number 1, Superboys of Malegaon.
Yes.
I mean, any of the directors I mentioned, their work. I think my most favorite film is Gamo or Memories of Murder. I mean, apart from obviously classics like Godfather or, Spielberg's work when I was growing up, E.T., tremendous impact on me. Salam Bombay, Meera Nair's film. That was the film that really, I was in class 9, I was studying in Delhi, and हम लोग bunk करके we used to go to Chanakya Puri to watch films. And I went in as an audience and came out as a director after watching Salam Bombay. It was that sudden for me, the decision that I want to write and direct. And like I'm saying, there's wheels within wheels. Finally, the first screening in India to a general public was in Chanakya in Delhi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You mentioned some names like Gus Van Sant. उनकी आपकी favorite film कौन सी है?
I think Elephant for sure.
Yeah. Elephant is the school shooting.
Yeah.
Have you seen Mickey 17?
No, not yet. I do want to.
I will be very curious to see like आपको वो film कैसी लगी.
Yeah, no, I would love to watch it.
Yeah.
It just released 2 weeks ago here, na? Yeah.
That is also one film, because how do you feel like about this thing when filmmakers talk about the importance of going to theaters? Like you might have seen the Sean Baker Oscar speech also, where he like really
Yes,
talked about
and I'm so happy that after that Enora blew up in the theaters. I think it's very important for people to go to the theaters, because the thing is, any kind of art form needs patrons. If you value things, you must make that effort to go out and watch it in a theater. Like I go all the time. अगर मुझे अच्छी नहीं लगी फिल्म, I always leave, because I feel कि पैसे तो गया, अभी वक्त भी बर्बाद नहीं करते हैं. But I think it's important for people to go to the theaters, and I think on the other side it's also important for, say, multiplexes to rethink the kind of movie ticket prices,
popcorn prices,
parking prices, because that is making it a bit inaccessible to people.
What do you think is the future of theaters?
Because everything in life is cyclical. So right now, yes, world over, there has been trend of people only going for these big tentpole type of films. But I hope that reverses and people actually go out and support other kinds of films also.
I'll give you a counter argument. Like there's a very good video I saw on this topic. मुझे बताना, I'm very curious to know what you think about it. There's a guy who said, why are the words support being used for like please support like cinemas, please support theaters. आप इसको charity क्यों बना रहे हो? Like theater जाने को, if you...
Because मैं बोल रही हूँ that it's not charity, it's patronage.
Okay.
And historically, if you see whether it's painters, musicians, they've always survived on patronage. So I see it as patronage. I don't see it as charity.
Help me understand the difference between the two.
Charity is, for example, you're supporting a cause.
Okay.
And you give them, it has nothing to do. But films is an art form. When you watch it, when you engage it, something happens to you. You value that, and therefore you pay for it. There's a big difference in my mind.
For me, like, if I may also talk about it a little, I think shows should also be screened in theaters. Like, you made Dahaad. Like, it is such a great show to be watched in a theater. That revolution should also come at some point where people can go to theaters to watch shows. It only happens during screenings where I'm watching the first 2 episodes of a show, but that can also be a thing which can help survive, like the theaters to survive.
I mean, I think the logistics of that is very complicated. Yeah.
How?
See, 8 घंटा कौन बैठेगा theater में, of your day.
Okay.
In that sense. And I also feel that's a big reason why people actually not going to the theater, apart from the reasons we spoke about earlier. But life is getting crazier and crazier for everybody. People in cities, you're trying to pack a 30-hour day into a 24-hour day. So in traffic, to figure out your travel time to the theater, there's tons of ads, there's tons of things like that.
Talk about that also.
So totally the amount of time that you're expecting a person to invest is maybe unrealistic. And these are the kinds of things that we can change.
Absolutely. What my mechanism is, I carry noise cancellation headphones to a theater, because if there is a 2-hour film, there is like 30 minutes of ads. So I have to strategize it in a way where I stand at a place where I know the film is starting, but I'm like, okay, I'll just, because आप विको वज्रजंती बहुत ज्यादा देखोगे, इट टेक्स यू अवे फ्रॉम द मालेगांव यूनिवर्स. नो, अगर मेरे को आप वो मान्यवर के एड दिखा रहे हो, दिस ऑल्सो नीड्स टू बी टॉक्ड अबाउट. इट इज जस्ट टेकिंग मी आउट ऑफ द होल प्लेस. सो दैट इज ऑल्सो वन थिंग विच इज, आई थिंक, people are really upset about.
And if you see like partnerships and all chalte rehte hain, you know, and like beginning credits go on and on and on and on and on. Yeah.
That is also there.
I think that overall, you know, it's a two-way street. There's a lot that we can do from our end, but there is something that people have to do, which is give patronage. I won't use the word support because you're associating it with charity. But you have to give patronage.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Historically, any art form, there's always somebody who values it and kind of financially helps it.
Sometimes when I go to theaters, I have seen like these popcorn samosa ka combos of 4 digit 1099. ये क्या है? मतलब मैं क्यों जाऊंगा फिर? Like this is also the filmmaker.
I know. You know, we're very aware of that, and that's why we had like, you know, part of the marketing budget we put into like a, you know, buy one get one scheme. Because it was not because we were defensive, you know, it was not because I genuinely we wanted people who could not, you know, who for them if it's turning too expensive, at least you have this option on Book My Show. It was for that. Again, you know, when we come back to Superboys, we were not expecting such a big number. It was a limited release.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That obviously film trade journalists, they don't speak about that when they're comparing films. So let me take Superboys out of the picture. Take a Lapata Ladies.
Right.
You know, you are saying, "Arey, Lapata Ladies made only this much money," and another film, whether it's an Animal or a Chava or films like that, made 500-600 crores. But उनका release हो रहा है in excess of 3,000-4,000 screens.
Right.
And Lapata would have released in, I don't think it could have, like Superboys, I think it was a 300-350 screen release. You get the difference,
Absolutely.
right? What I'm saying. So, yeah.
And I think people are over obsessing on these numbers and crores. Like, I don't know what kick they are getting out of it. 500 CR, 600 CR.
I think that's a very, very bad trend.
Yeah, it is.
Because you're, you know, whether you like a film or not is something very personal. अगर मुझे कोई चीज़ अच्छी लगी, you tell me this film made only whatever, a certain small amount, I'm not going to stop liking the film. At the same time, I go watch a film and it's made 600 crores, but I didn't like it. The fact that it made 600 crores is not going to make me like it. You know? So I think it's a very reductionist way of looking at films.
But to put something on an OTT, is it mandatory to release it in theaters?
Not always. Not always.
In which cases it is, and in which cases?
I mean, that the OTTs decide, I think.
Oh.
But Superboys was, you know, from the beginning, it was a tie-up with Amazon Prime and Amazon MGM. And from the beginning, we had intended to do an international release. And obviously, you know, the security is the fact that it eventually will go and sit on a platform, on their platform.
Which is like that one bad advice that you hear in the industry that people give, that you are very like upset about, कि कुछ लोग बड़ी बातें करते हैं, ऐसे करो ये चलेगा, ये करो ये नहीं चलेगा. One thing which irritates you a lot.
I mean, it's not advice. I'll tell you what irritates me. Things like, you know, this insider-outsider type of arguments, nepotism, ye wo. I mean, this is all, for me, it's just so pointless. And it's just, you know, I don't believe any of that are real facts. Yes, this is a hard business. It's very hard to break into it. And nepotism has nothing to do with it. It is that hard a business because you have a very hard audience. People don't accept things. You know, it is that.
But I want you to speak a little more about it. जिससे लोगों को ये बात समझ आए. How is it pointless?
Because अब देखो what's going on, okay? I mean, for example, Nadanya, you know, which I have to say that I think this trolling and hating is not nice. It's terrible. Because I'm looking at some of the reactions and whatever it is. It's some, you know, Ibrahim's first film, Khushi's second film, I think, you know. And when I'm seeing the comments and I'm looking at the people who are commenting, 50-year-olds, 40-year-olds, kya kar rahe ho? You're sitting and hating on a child? Give them a chance. Nobody is perfect. But why shouldn't somebody become an actor because their parent was an actor? आप किसी डॉक्टर के बच्चे को बोलोगे डॉक्टर मत बनो?
No, makes
You know what I'm saying? Nepotism exists across the board in all societies, across all industries. And that's a fact. When we put out Archies, the first announcement, there were 7 people in the trailer that we named and featured and focused on. But आपको सिर्फ 3 ही याद हो रहे और फिर हमको nepotism बोल रहे हो. What people don't realize is when you hate watch, and to me that is the sad thing, that I feel the audience has become so cynical and disillusioned. Ki, you have 2 hours to watch a film. Why you hate watching something? खबर तो निकल गई, it's pointless. The film is not good, the performances are not good. क्यों देख रहे हो आप hate करने के लिए? कुछ और देखो. You have the entire library of films on these platforms. Why aren't you watching something that you know is good? Why are you watching something to hate it? And when you do that, you're giving that viewership. And then the OTT is going to greenlight projects like that. So the quality of your films, any kind of popular culture, it is a reflection also of the society and the audience that is made for, and the audience that engages it. And I do accept that maybe there has been a lack of strong voices, original films. But that is also because that is what the audience is encouraging. You are only encouraging successful remakes.
Why do you think people hate watch? What according to you is the psyche behind it?
मुझे क्या पता?
But if you have to make a guess, क्यों देख रहे हो?
It is said that bad news travels much faster and negative things travel way more on social media than positive things or good things or happy making things. And that is really for us to, who have we become?
How much do you personally get affected by negative comments?
I'm very thick-skinned on that matter. I'm very clear about constructive criticism and hate. अगर आप film देखे हो and you didn't like the film but you want to speak about it and in a constructive way, I'm happy for that. But अगर आप जैसे I'm saying, when it's this kind of stuff where कुछ भी बोल रहे हो, it's really not making sense. So I just switch off.
I think Meera Nair का एक quote है कि to be a filmmaker you need to have a skin of an elephant and heart of a poet. दोनों
I think very well put.
Yeah. I think वो आपके Tiger Baby के लोगों में भी I see that thing. Like I'm very impressed with the design stuff you guys do. It's everywhere. Like the combination.
Yeah,
of
but it's
both
not just us. I'm saying that look at any film. It's literally a 2-3 hour year process.
Absolutely.
And people watch it in 2 घंटे में judge करके either it's good, bad, junk, not junk, loved, hated. So that is the business, and you can't really do anything about that.
I think people also do it to get attention of people like you. कि हम अगर negative बोलेंगे, so there is a good chance कि Reema might see it. And this is my understanding of Instagram. कि let's say if I put out something about Nadaniya, क्या पता खुशी देख ले, क्या पता, and this is their way of getting attention. This is my psyche.
Maybe I mean,
but
really,
it is not smart, but yeah.
Because I don't know why, and it's not just about films.
Yeah.
When you see any kind of discourse, whether it's political, whether it's social, the thing that I hate most about social media is it's not just anonymity, where it gives people the, behind some pseudonym, fake name, you're doing all this. Because personally, when you meet somebody, even if you didn't like what they did, you'll still keep certain, what is normal human decency.
Yes, absolutely.
But somehow it's really sad that social media is encouraging, human indecency and normalizing that.
And social media, according to me, is also creating narcissists out of all of us. Even if I have 50 followers, मेरे 50 followers हैं, तो लोग उसके लिए performative हो जाते हैं. मैं इन 50 लोगों को बताऊंगा कि मैं नादानिया के बारे में क्या सोचता हूँ, because it's my right to tell them now. So it is giving everyone a sense of narcissism.
It may be, but I would ask you the question कि आपको तो पता है that this film was not loved, so why are you going and watching it? To hate it. I mean, what is this? मैंने इसको बोल दिया, इसको सुना दिया.
किसको?
Whoever, what I mean? Like you're saying that I've criticized, say, an actor or an actress now who's I've सुनाव them. उससे क्या होता है? What are you doing with your life?
Yeah.
You're wasting your time. You're sitting and engaging negativity. as opposed to taking that 2 hours and doing something positive with it, something constructive. And that's what again, going back to there is a cynicism and a disillusionment, which is upsetting.
In future, are you planning to take up more projects which are not particularly written by you, but you direct?
I'm open to that. I'm always open to that. There is a script that I'm developing, which somebody else is writing.
Oh, wow.
But my next one, Zoe and I have written. And so, yeah, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what I connect to, and I think what at Tiger Baby, once we, kuch ek base idea we connect to, then we make that happen.
Wow.
Now, whether that is, making sense or not to other people or commercial or not or whatever, we find a way to make it and put it out there.
Yeah.
Because we believe in it.
Apart from Superboys of Malegaon, which is that one work of yours that you think deserves more recognition?
I don't think Superboys deserves more recognition in that sense. It has been recognized.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Across the board, like I said.
But the thing that you would feel happy if more people watched, apart from Superboys.
People have watched all our work, and eventually even Superboys, they will watch on OTT.
Okay.
And I know that it's a film that is going to go down in the ages.
Absolutely.
Which is a huge, to me, the mark of a good film, more than box office performance, is how long it lives.
Yeah.
And none of our work has not lived. Like say when I made Honeymoon Travels Private Limited, it's been 17 years. Yeah. But I still meet people who like it. I still meet people who talk about it. And for me, that is the success of the film.
Yeah.
Not the the performance at box office.
I'm so glad you are making films like these, and this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
Reema.
you so much.